Hi, I'm Nitesh, and I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, um, I have no idea where the time went. It's been, it hasn't been an easy journey so far, but yeah, I'm just grateful to be here today, and that really makes a lot of sense for me, especially in what I went through in this past year. But let me start at the beginning. I'll give you a little bit of background. Uh, I was born in a small town on the north coast, Colleges Bay. I was youngest of three, had two older sisters, and from a very, very young age, I was different. I sort of knew I was different. And yeah, like I thought movies and stuff were real. I remember watching this episode of Mr. Bean where his car gets crushed, and I started crying because how is he going to go to the shops and work? And it was just weird, And I didn't understand a lot of stuff in life. I couldn't grasp the simplest of things, but the more advanced things, I could. I started reading books from a very young age, and I loved it. I loved like getting lost in my own imagination, taking myself on a journey. Realize how like this mental journey, but I didn't realize like how footing it would be later on in my life. So yeah, school was difficult for me. Um, I I had like this photographic memory. I knew all the answers in class, but I couldn't make any friends. I could not make any friends. I used to get straight A's, and I battled with like social cues and like just like being normal around people because I just always wanted to be right and I always wanted to be heard and I always just tried my best to be the center of attention and nobody really liked that. I remember I was in primary school, I must have been 6 or 7, and you had to write a letter to somebody in class and nobody wrote a letter to me and I was absolutely floored. I went home, I cried, I told my mom, and my mom kept on telling me, no, you're special, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I took that to heart and I sort of didn't think rules applied to me. So my dad was a very well-known businessman in the community. He did a lot for the community as well, and everybody knew me as so-and-so's son, and I used that to my advantage to get away with basically anything. And I didn't believe that I broke any rules. I just did not believe that rules applied to me. And yeah, it was my life was good. My dad was he worked a lot, but when he was around, he always spent time with us. We went on holidays, vacations. He did everything. Nothing was short. He was a very successful businessman. Nothing was out of reach in those 10 years up to his death. And when he died, like my whole world sort of changed, and it wasn't because of necessarily because he died. It was the way he went. He was murdered, and I sort of saw him lying there on the floor and like the blood coming down, and I held that image in my mind for a very long time. And I didn't. I sort of used that as my tool to behave badly, and from a very very from the age of 10, my behavior was absolutely horrible, horrible. I didn't care about my mom or my sisters, not thinking that like my mom lost her husband, and my sisters lost their father. I didn't care. I just did whatever I wanted to do without having any thoughts or regrets. And it was fine. Like I had my little circle of friends. I did make some friends. I had basically one best friend, and like all of her friends as well. Like, and we were all like a group. And yeah, it was tough those 2 years in primary school till I was 12, and then my mom decided me to pull me out of the school and move me to a Jew language school, Afrikaans and English school. And having been in like this close-knit Indian community my whole life, I was then exposed to like a whole new community, and I didn't like it. I didn't want to be there. No, nobody asked me. They told me you are going to the school. They just called me in the room. Like my mom and my sister used to make all of the decisions for me in my life, and they told me like, no, you're moving to the school. That's it, done. And I didn't want to go because I had my friends, and like the school was literally across the road from my house, so it was close by. And even all of the people in that school were going to go to the high school in my suburb as well. So it wasn't like far away. Everybody was around me, and I had like a support structure there of some sorts that sort of kept me sane. But when I moved to the new school, it was horrible. I got bullied from day one, and I wasn't. I'm gonna be honest here. Like I wasn't exposed to like white people and black people. I was only exposed to Indian people, and I saw like how different cultures and people sort of do things. I said, okay, now fine. Now I'm gonna sort of mold my own sort of personality now. I'm going to change myself into something else. And yeah, it was a weird thing because in my community, when I came home from school and I tried to see some of my friends, they automatically labeled me as too white. And in school, I was too Indian, so that nobody wanted to hang out with me there, which didn't really make sense. And I was just somewhere in between, not knowing where I stood, but knowing that I have to go out and I have to draw as much attention to myself all the time. And yeah, I think when I left my suburb and I went out into like basically like the real world, that's when I discovered all of the bad stuff they could say, smoking, drinking, and just like everything that was wrong. And I excelled in smoking and drinking, and I did it from a very young age. I took my first drink at like 13. We bought a couple of beers, me and my friends, and we drank. It was like 40 degrees. We all got wasted, slept, passed out, threw up and passed out under a tree. But I loved it. I was like, yeah, we're doing this again. We definitely doing this again. And yeah, when I hit high school, and yeah, it was tough. It was really tough not having a dad. Like going through puberty, like I learned how to shave myself. I learned how to, like, I didn't know how to be a man, and I was looking for that in all the, I guess, the wrong places. Like I've got a lot of friends who are older than me, like a good 10 years older than me. Like I was sort of looking for a male role model in my life, and I just all of these people like gave me this like bad advice, and I remember listening to them and taking advice, and like not really, it's not really working out for me in my life. And at the same time, like my dad's brother, who literally lives like 250 meters away from my house in my suburb, just like cut all communication. And I thought like he'd be there for me, but he wasn't. And it was from then on, like I didn't really acknowledge family. Like my dad has a very big family. My mom as well. My mom's family is absolutely crazy. They weren't speaking to her from the time that she got married and stuff. So I sort of disregarded them. But like my dad's family, they were there. They were there for us quite a bit. Like my dad's extended family, but from a distance. It was never close by. And I heard some stuff like in my teenage years that they were speaking bad about our about my mom and especially my mom, and I didn't like that. So I disregarded everybody, and I said, "F them. I don't really care about anybody else anymore. It's just me on this journey," and I carried on. Yeah, so high school was tough. I wasn't being bullied anymore because I was the pirate in the. I was a tech guy in school, so I was the guy. If you wanted movies, CDs, music, you came to me, I'll hook you up. I had hard drive, I had computer, whatever. So, I enjoyed that sort of attention because everybody knew me, everybody wanted to speak to me, but only about that, not about like how I'm doing. Um, so yeah, I did make some close friends who I've known since like preschool, but it wasn't really. I was always more of a friend to them than they were to me. I was always there for them all the time, and they would just disregard me and not even include me most of the things. And I was okay with it as long as I was getting a little bit of attention. It was fine. And yeah, I fell in love with this girl. We dated for about a year or something, but we were only 15, and I fell head over heels in love with her. And she broke up with me, and that was horrible. That's when I threw myself into drinking and partying a lot, like 15 years old. And my mom refused to let me go out and do whatever I wanted. I used to fight and I used to get my way and move out. I only got a set of house keys when I turned 18. I never had house keys. I used to have to phone my mom to her to come and open the door. And yeah, that carried on. Yeah, so when I was about 17, my best friend that I met in primary school, she committed suicide. And that was also quite tough for me in that time because, like, over the years we drifted apart, and I sort of blame myself for not being there for her, and I threw myself into drinking as well. That sort of coincided with my breakup as well, so I threw myself into drinking. And my marks at school tumbled. Like it was bad. I didn't even think I was going to pass grade 11 because my marks were so bad. And I knew I could study, but I didn't want to. I just didn't care. And yeah, I got in trouble at school a lot because once again I just thought rules didn't apply to me. And yeah, I managed to pass matric, and I managed to get into law. I did. Actually started like in matric. I had like this whole epiphany that I need to do well. I did try and like, do something, and I was given four choices: doctor, lawyer, engineer, accountant. I just had to choose one of them, and that's it. I can't choose anything else. So I said, okay, fine, I'll do law, whatever. Because I have to watch law and all on TV. So that's why I chose it. And yeah, I got into law. I got into UKZN in Durban. I was not allowed to go there. I was allowed only to go to um, University of Zululand, which is close to my hometown, because my mom didn't trust me. And if I look back now, like I wasn't a very trustworthy person, responsible person. I was still a kid. I was still like a 10-year-old boy, just looking for something that I could never find. And yeah, when I hit campus, it was just drinking, smoking weed. It was just horrible. Like I discovered weed as well, and yeah, and then I failed. I failed. I think yeah, I failed everything because some of my marks were even inconclusive because I never even went to class, and yeah, it wasn't good. My mom and my sisters just didn't like anything that I did. So whenever I did anything wrong, I used to sit in front of the council of mothers, I used to call them, and they would give me my reality, and I would be like, I don't really care, and I'm leaving. So that's what I should do. I should just leave, run away. And yeah, I went to study. After that, I was put into Boston College to study IT. Like I had a flair for computers, but it wasn't my thing. And then I met this girl there who used to smoke weed, and she taught me like how to prepare the stuff and whatnot. And like I fell in love with her as well. I felt like hello babies, and now I can see there's a pattern developing here. And yeah, when I discovered that, like that side of it, I became a full-on stoner. That was my persona. I disregarded alcohol, and I just became a full-on stoner. And I think for many years after that, like I just clung to that idea of I'm a stoner, I'm chill, I'm relaxed. Um, Everybody else can drink. I'll be like the responsible one, and that was the case. Like my friends and I used to go partying and drinking and stuff, and I would always be the one driving them and making sure they don't get locked up and like taking care of them when they passed out and whatnot. So yeah, I was like the responsible one. But I still didn't feel, I never felt like I belonged. Although I was there with them, we had good times, whatever, it didn't make sense. And yeah, then eventually failed IT, and then I was moved to Durban to study mechanical engineering, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed that. I was doing well. I was passing, but still wasn't happy. I wasn't. There was something missing inside of me, and I decided to. I had a suicide attempt, and I was hospitalized for almost 2 months. And my mom and my sisters were shattered. They didn't realize like the extent. Like I wrote 3 suicide notes, and I did whatever. And yeah, when they read the notes, they did realize that I'm not okay. I'm not okay. They just wanted me to be okay. I think that was all they were searching for. And I didn't care about it. I did not care about it, to be honest with you. If I look back at it now, it pains me to see that I've actually done that, but I just didn't care. And yeah, it was then decided that I start work, that I must go work. So I got a job in Verymark. I was selling vacuum cleaners, high as a kite, just standing there, vacuuming up like sand and stuff, eating the cornflakes, because they gave us cornflakes to vacuum. I just sit there and eat, like totally glazed over the whole time. I worked there for about 2 months, and then one of my friends who worked at VW got me an interview with the boss. She said, I put your CV on his table, just come in and see me. And like throughout my whole life, I loved cars. Cars were my passion. I used to sit as a kid and just read car magazine articles and just like absorb all of these facts and stuff. So when I went for the interview, I knew I was like ready. I was very, very arrogant about it. And I went there and I started explaining like VW's history and the cars. And I was telling him like the stats of the cars on the floor. And he was like, okay, now I get it. He said, can you start in the workshop? And I was like, yes. So I started in the workshop and I loved it. And I think that's when like things really started getting out of hand. Um, my friends and I discovered ecstasy, so we used to go party a lot and use that. And yeah, it was just a blur. Like I was doing what I love. I loved going to work. I loved working on cars. I loved learning about cars, and I was just partying every day. In fact, just going out and doing whatever. And then I met at my sister's wedding. I met um, my ex-fiance and family friend's daughter. I've known her since I was young. But in my head, when I saw her, I thought um, she's she's young. She can give me kids. She's the right religion for my mother, and my family knows my mother already likes her. So I was only doing that to make my mother happy, so I can get off my back, in essence. And we started dating. She lived in Durban, and yeah, it was tough traveling up and down. And she was like fully into that partying lifestyle, and I wasn't. I was just like phasing out. And yeah, so anyway, I took a transfer to, I managed to speak to some guys at the not treatment center, sorry, the training center at VW, and I knew them quite well. Um, so I got a job there. I finished my apprenticeship there. And I moved to Durban, and at the time, our flat in Durban was vacant. So I decided to move in together with my fiance. We weren't engaged, we were still boyfriend and girlfriend, but when we moved in, her parents said, no, you'll have to get at least engaged. So we did. And yeah, that was horrible, absolutely horrible. At any given time, there was all of her friends from. So she was an actress, singer, model, dancer, and she was studying to become a teacher. So there was always like 12 or 13 young girls at my house all the time. It was horrible. We used to eat all my food, and it was just horrible, horrible time to be there. You know, and I had good perks at work. I had a company car. We used to only work like 8 to 2 every day, and it was like I used to be at home a lot. And yeah, I should take her to all of her modeling shows, whatever, and like be that her boyfriend and wait for her after the show and give her flower, all that stuff. Yeah, it's horrible. And yeah, I thought I finally found like this is my life now. And yeah, but like her drinking and stuff was out of control. She literally drink like a bottle of whiskey every day. And she was only 19 and she was literally this high. I don't know where the whiskey went. Seriously, it didn't make sense. But yeah, I didn't like it. Our relationship turned sour fast. Yeah, and it was horrible. There was abuse on both sides, physical, mental, emotional. It was horrible. And by the end of it, she cheated on me, and she posted a picture on Facebook of her kissing another guy when it says that we're engaged. You know, and yeah, that was horrible. It broke me, absolutely broke me. And not only did my whole family see, but everybody I knew so. And within a month, I kicked her out. I broke up with her, kicked her out of my flat. Um, and within a month, I was back in. I managed to get my whole job back. Yeah, and then I was just numb. I was absolutely numb. I used to walk around um, the mall just like completely stoned, thinking, what am I going to do now? Like my life is empty. It's completely empty. And then I went for this party with one of my friends, one of my older friends, and he was like, "Hey, dude, you want to try this?" And I was like, "Okay." So I tried that drug, and that was it. That was my solution. Once I took that drug, I was in the game. Could speak to people. I immediately felt better about myself in that moment, and I could talk to women. I was the life of the party again, and it sort of gave me like this new uh, existence. Like I had a purpose in life. I found my solution. This is what I'm going to do, and that's it. And that's what I did. From about 2012 till about 2019, it was just absolute chaos. I went absolutely crazy. I shouldn't come home. I used to be gone for 3 or 4 days, not tell anybody where I was. I was gone down to 75 kgs. I wasn't eating. I used to show up to work, but I wasn't eating and I wasn't doing anything. And yeah, it was horrible. I got involved with some people. So I made like this declaration to myself. I said, look, I've been this good boy all the time. Like I've always wanted to have one girlfriend, one partner, one wife. I said that's all out the window. I didn't mess around when I was a teen, and in that sort of stage, I'm gonna start doing it now, and that's what I did. I threw myself. I became somebody who I who I don't even recognize now that I look back. Like I became somebody completely different. I was inappropriate. I was brash. I was obnoxious. I used to fight with people for no reason, and I didn't have any moral compass whatsoever. My depth of my depravity knew no bounds. It was absolutely horrible. And I got involved in some really shady stuff with some older woman, and it wasn't nice. I used to be with them, do whatever, and come back to my house and cry, and literally cry in the shower because I used to feel so empty and broken, and then I used to take the substance and feel better about myself and carry on. And that was the cycle that I went through. Um, like the first cycle was sort of from 2012 to 2016, and 2016 was the year my sister found out that she was pregnant. And like when I heard that I'm getting a niece, I tried to change. I tried. Like I took out all my piercings and my jewelry. I stopped doing whatever. I still smoke weed, but like I stopped doing like the other drugs. And like I said, I can't be an uncle if I'm going to be this person. And um, I thought that would change me. It didn't. It worked for about 11 months. I white knuckled it throughout. I was going to temple. I was doing yoga on the beach. I was exercising. I was at the gym, Yeah, it was horrible. But then slowly but surely, that sort of didn't work out. And at the same time, um, in that time period, the one day I rocked up to work and my manager was shouting and screaming at me. I literally just took my tools and I left. I just packed up my tools and I said, "F this, I'm gone." And I didn't care. I didn't care about like anything, like anybody in my family. I was at home. So I was at home for about a year, and I slowly but surely I was working from home. I was fixing cars and stuff at home, and then I started using again. I started picking up again, and it sort of became a cycle. Do a job, use the money, go use, come back after 3 days, do another job, use, and just do that again. And then I don't know how like I managed to get this job at BMW. I don't know. I saw this listing and I applied, and then I went for the like psychometric evaluation. I can't believe I passed that. I can't believe they hired me after doing a full psychometric evaluation. But yeah, like I got the job at BMW, and I've always been a BMW fan. I hated VW, um, and I've always just been a proper like BMW fanboy. And I got in there and I was like, yes, this is it. And I said, okay, no drugs. And I stopped everything. And that lasted for about 6 months. Yeah, about 6 months. So I had a really racist foreman, and I blamed a lot of my using on him after. I was like, oh, if it, like I'm, no, it's not going to work. I can't go to work if I'm normal because I'm going to get involved in a fight. And slowly but surely, like whenever I started using, I went back into that same lifestyle, that depraved sort of morally bankrupt sort of lifestyle. I just carried on in the same path. And then 2018, yeah, so 2018, I attacked. I was on a heavy calm down. I think it was a 5 day binge, and I went to work on Monday, and I attacked one of the appies with a torque wrench. He said something to me, and I lost my mind. I literally saw red. And when I came to, I was holding him against the wall with the torque wrench by his neck, and I just dropped everything. I didn't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I blacked out completely, and I was fired. I was suspended first, and then I got fired after that. And then, yeah, I think that's when like it was horrible because I was literally using to die. Then I was. I used to work um, during the week. I had a lot of. In the time like I met a lot of customers, and I tried to do a lot of things, and I made a lot of customers, so I used to get a lot of work, and I used to work in news. And by 2019, I needed help. I told my mom I needed help. And I went to my first treatment center, which was good. Like I loved being there, but I didn't love like having religion thrown at me. Like I was not religious at all. Like I didn't understand the religion. I used to only do my religion to make my mom happy. Like I still don't understand my religion. And yeah, I enjoyed my time there. They gave me all of the guidelines on how to live clean. You must pray. You must meditate. You must exercise, but nothing to do with the steps or working a program or a higher power. Nothing. The higher power was only the Bible, and that's it. And yeah, I came out in January 2020, and I lasted 2 weeks at home. Within 2 weeks, I reverted back to the same old behavior. And I lost my mind. At the house, I broke some stuff, and this violent outburst. And my my counselor at the time, he knew of the house on the hill, and he says, "No, send him there. They're teaching the right way." And I did. I went there under false pretenses because my sister said that I'm going there for a 2 week assessment to then I can go into a halfway house. I ended up staying for like 3.5 months. And yeah, I think if I look back now, the first time in treatment, I complied a lot. Yes, I did. I did find a connection to my higher power. Yes, I did uh, expose some of my stuff, but not everything. I held back a lot, and I thought I had to be perfect in the program. And when I left the house on the hill, I went to the halfway. So this is the part that I really want to like just like talk about because this is one of, I think, the most powerful experiences that I've ever had was being in the halfway house. And looking back at it now, I realize how powerful it was because I had to fail first in order to sort of be here today. And when I went to the halfway house, it was good at first. Slowly but surely, my parents were my family were giving me stuff again, and it was all good. But I was not okay. I took people's inventory. I was resentful. I should just sit in concern and concern everybody. Because if I'm going to take anybody's inventory, it's going to be yours. It's not going to be mine. That is my saying. I used to say to myself in my head. And I used to plan my responses. I used to literally lie in bed at night before I sleep and think about who's going to catch me out, who's going to do whatever. and I should have my responses planned and my lies planned. That's exactly what I used to do in active, and I should do the same stuff. And in that time, like in 2020, I quit smoking, but then when I went to the halfway house, I decided to smoke in the quiet. So I should smoke in the bathroom, which doesn't make sense. Smoke in the bathroom in the house and light incense so nobody catches me. And then when I was to go for a haircut, I used to make sure I go alone and make excuses so I can go alone, so I can smoke there by that barber shop in Park Lane. Also, when I'm going to do my shopping, I used to make excuses to go alone, so I could park behind Pick and Pay. There's a nursery there and literally smoke in the corner there. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make. If I think about it now, I just laugh because it's like so stupid. And yeah, um, last year this time, I went home and I just got a good job and I sort of saved enough money. I had enough. I budgeted to go home. I had fuel money. I bought my food for the month. And I went home and it was Mother's Day. It was a time the only time like when I have to make it about my mom, and it was my dad's death day the day before, the 11th of May. And I said, no, it's going to be about them. And then when I finished, like we had supper at my sister's house, we came back. I'll be honest now. Like when my salary was deposited, I knew what I was going to do. I knew I was going to use. I knew I was going to use the money to be used. I knew. And when I came back, I was fighting with myself. And then I thought to myself, I deserve it. So I phoned my dealer. He dropped off something for me, and I used it. I used it, and it wasn't nice. It wasn't good. It was horrible because I knew that I still had to go back to the halfway house on Sunday and face everybody. And my insanity told me, no, it's fine. They won't notice. They won't notice. A house full of addicts won't notice. And when I walked in, one of the fellows in the house, he just asked me, "What's wrong? What's wrong, Nitesh? What's wrong, Mom? Something's wrong." And I'm like, "No, it's fine. I just want to go. I had a rough weekend. I just want to go shower." I went in the shower and I'm trying to get myself normal. I had like a cold shower, hot first and cold. It didn't work, whatever. And then we sat for concerns. And I was twitching and moving. It was horrible. And I was concerning people. That was the best part. I just kept on concerning people, trying to get the attention off me. That was my insanity. It just doesn't make sense. And when I look back at it now and I laugh, but a couple of months ago it was proper cringe. Proper cringe. And then I got concerned. They're like, Nitesh, you're not looking okay, what's wrong? And I cried crocodile tears. I put on this act. I had this, like I practiced this in the drive to Scottsboro. I practiced this whole speech in the car with the tears, and I sort of the right emotions to use to actually get the tears out. And although I was flipping like dehydrated, I don't know how the tears fucking came out. But yeah. So anyway, that week before I could go home, I was house sitting for a fellow, and then on Monday I was supposed to house sit again. And yes, I tried to play it off as much as I could, but everybody in the house knew that I used. Everybody could see it. And yeah, turns out the person I was house sitting for is the neighbor of Stal. And when I rocked up there on Monday, Stal was waiting for me by the door. He's like, "Look, Nitesh, your behavior's been erratic. You need to be tested." And I knew. So I tested me, it came up positive, and I lied. I said, no, that drug's there. I said, no, that I don't do that drug, I do the other drugs. Like, I don't do that one. So Star was like, drive to the treatment center and test it there. And I did. I drove up to the treatment center. I sort of knew that my reign of terror was over. But I didn't want to, come clean. I didn't want to accept it. And as soon as I walked in there, as soon as I opened the car door, one of the counselors pulled my phone and my keys away. He's like, "That's a station test." Same things came up. He said, "Don't bullshit. We know you used. Just admit it." I said, "Okay, I used." And I sat there. I remember, yeah, it was horrible. I admitted it. I sat there. It was flipping, freezing cold and raining, and I'm sitting there in my jacket, and I'm still not feeling okay. My body is like totally flipped. My nose and my mouth is all raw. And I'm sitting there, literally, my head in my hands, thinking, how have I ended up here again? And yeah, I look back at it now, and I needed that, but at the time I was like, fuck. And I knew I didn't have anywhere else to go. I couldn't go home. I couldn't go back to the halfway house. I don't have enough money to go and live by myself, escape and live by myself somewhere. This is all I have left. I wasn't willing, but I knew I was there, and I knew something had to be done. And I went back into treatment, and it was horrible. The long walk, I hated it every morning. And yeah, for the first week, I didn't connect. I didn't connect. I was still sharing about how, yes, I relapsed, but I'm here now, and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it was horrible. I didn't connect for a long time. I did a small assignment and did my life story, and I still didn't connect. I was put in an advice and share ban. I wasn't allowed to share or give advice. So I just sit there in my head for most of the time and just not like speak to when people came to speak to me, I put on this act and show that I'm okay, but inside I was like dying. I was probably dying inside. In that time, my mom, I resigned from my job. My mom told me that she's never speaking to me again, whatever I do. Now, even if I want to die, it's fine. She doesn't really care. My sister said she's never going to allow my nieces around me because I'm a cunning, deceptive person with immoral motives. These are her exact words. Immoral motives, and she's never allowing me around her kids ever again because she doesn't want that person around her kids, and that broke me. And the only person who was talking to me was my sister, my second oldest sister. She's always just been there for me. She's always taken the brunt of most of my actions in active, and she's always just been there for me. But it was hard like, speaking to her. Yeah, so I did my life story. I didn't connect, and directly after that, um, somebody presented a life story, and then my sponsor came up to me. He's like, "No, no, just stay. We're gonna have a group for you." And I was like, "Group for me? What?" Like normally, like before, I'd be like, "Yes, it's all about me," but I was not because I knew something was going on. And he sat me down in the front, and everybody in the halfway house wrote a feedback for me. And yo, that was yes. I'm thinking about it now, and it's still not. It's still not something that I enjoyed, but I knew I needed it. Um, I read them not so long ago when I was in COVID isolation. Yeah, and it's powerful. The things that they said there, they pointed out exactly who I was, and I remember clearly the one feedback said, um, when you left, the halfway house became a much more habitable environment to live in, and I was broken. I was absolutely torn. In that moment, I sort of connected to not only what I did in the halfway house, but how I've affected my family for 30 years of existence. And it was bad. And I walked out. I didn't want to speak to anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I walked to the little dam there by the geese. And immediately my head told me, okay, Nitesh, how can we play this? That was the first thought that came to my mind. How can I play this? Because that's all my mind ever does is much to play a situation and think about an outcome where it benefits me in some way. And I literally said out loud, I said, no, I can't do this anymore. I can't play. And from then on, like, things started to change. I started to get self-honest. I did my step 5, and I let go of my resentments, where I resented to everybody in the halfway house, each and every single one of them. But they were all irrational. They were all very stupid stuff. I couldn't look at my part. Finally let go of all my secrets, finally let go of all my reservations. Um, and yeah, it was a powerful experience. But I felt like I needed to be longer in treatment. But my family couldn't afford to keep me there longer. So the medical aid paid 1 month, and then my family paid 1 month, and then I had to come back to the halfway house. That was the only other option for me. Couldn't go back home. And that drive from treatment to the halfway house it was hard. I was trying to drive slower, so I didn't make it there on time. It was cold, but I was sweating because I was like so nervous and all of these things. Because I had to go back and face people who have wronged. And the last time I was there, I was literally high in a concern group, telling them, crying tears and telling them that I'm not losing. And that was horrible. I went back into the halfway house, and yeah, things were totally different. A lot of the rules had changed, and I still wasn't okay. I was still like very apprehensive. I was still stuck in my head about most things. I still felt alone. I got concerned every week, and it was horrible. And the looting and stuff happened, and we were stuck in the house the whole day with everybody there, and it wasn't pleasant. Um, in that time as well, my mom and my sisters, well, not my mom, just my sisters told me exactly who I was. They phoned me and they gave me my ultimate truth. They told me exactly what I've done, and it was difficult. I had to literally just take that for exactly what it was. Look at myself, look at my part, and find out how I'm going to do better. And the only way I could have gotten to that was through my high power. I sat at some nights and I cried and I prayed. There were some days when I didn't want to I didn't want to go to work, I didn't want to wake up, but I did. I got on my knees when I didn't want to. I I meditated when I was feeling the most alone and I was trying to get out of my head. I helped out wherever I could, and yeah, it was really a painful experience. I was moved to Baisley, so obviously I was in my room. I have my own room and stuff, and it got a bit lonely at first. I thought that I needed people around, and I think whatever happened there at Baisley was good for me because it gave me a chance to practice my program just for me without other people watching. And I think that for me was the most important thing because I always wanted people to look at me and acknowledge what I've done. And in Baisley, I didn't have that opportunity. I just had to get on my knees, had to do my step 11, had to speak to my sponsor. I have to pray regularly and just do that without anybody watching. Like I remember before in the halfway hours, I used to only get on my knees when my roommates just to so they could see that I was working a program. And now I get on my knees because I know I need to. I know I have to surrender and I have to pray and I have to do that in my recovery. And I think, yeah, from then onwards, things started to get better. I stopped getting involved in other people's stuff. I stopped. I stopped having like deep-seated resentments. I tried to relinquish control a lot. My awareness around who I am is really increased. My self-honesty is really increased because I have to really look at myself and think, how am I affecting people? And that's only through the grace of God. Like when I'm having a tough time, sometimes I don't want to pray, and then I just look out of the balcony and I see the ocean and I see the clouds and I see the stars and the moon and I see God there. And that's the only thing that really helped me through this time. And yeah, the stuff with my family, things have changed. They're not ready to have me home in Richards Bay yet. I'm not physically ready to go there as well. But yeah, I get to speak to my nieces on a regular basis. I'm making amends with my sisters. I don't phone my mom and my sisters when I need stuff. I phone them when just to ask them how they're doing. And yeah, even over this past weekend, like with my relapse, my 1 year and my dad's death day and Mother's Day, like I sent my mom flowers and she just phoned me in tears and she said, like, thank you. I didn't want anything from you. I was thinking about you a lot today because of what happened last year, but thank you. Like I know you're trying. I know you're trying. And that's all I ever wanted to hear. I don't want to be the center of attention anymore. I just want to be a part of my family. I really enjoy being a part of the halfway house now because everything is completely different. I have good relationships with everybody there, and it's different. Like the halfway house is still basically the same, but like everything feels different because I'm not making it about me. And even when I came out of treatment this time, like before, I was trying to work a perfect program. I had service positions, ASC, HNI, and like this time around, I'm just trying to figure out my foundation first before I can get into that. Yes, I do service whenever I can, but I'm not doing service on a grand level to show people how I'm working this perfect program. The Sister Fellowship talks about progress, not perfection, and I understand that now because perfection is literally annihilation. It's not how the world works. Nobody is perfect because I'm human. And at the end of the day, just being here today is like the greatest gift that I could ever give my family because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. What they've gone through with the loss of my dad and me just causing chaos all the time. My amends to them is just working a program for the rest of my life, trying to make it better. And yeah, sitting here today is really a gift. And if there's anybody out there who thinks that they're not going to make it, just give it time. Just keep on doing the next right thing, and it will work out beyond your wildest dreams. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Nitesh.